Good evening, everybody, and how are we all doing today? I hope you're all well and having a great week. Um, Lots to get through tonight, and many of you will know this subject. I spoke about this last week. I still can't find the right words to explain what I want to talk about, but we'll get into that in just a moment. First of all, let's see if anybody is out there. And yeah, Adrian is out there. Good evening to you. Ballycillian has just got home. Hello, everyone. Good evening to you. Philly SBB, hello, everyone. Good evening to you. Kate Spratt, good evening, Veg Army. Good evening to you. Oracle is out there saying hello to everyone, and in particular, Stuart Jackson. Let's find out if Stuart is here tonight. Turbo Streamers out there. Good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. Hargrave Gas is out there. Evening all. Hope you've had a great week. I am very sunburnt. Take care in that sun. It's been very, very hot. Anna Jones is out there. Evening, everyone. Evening, gardeners. Good evening to you. Jenny Hullett is out there saying hello, everyone. Good evening to you. Digwell is out there. Good evening, everybody. Good evening to you. Anna Jones is saying very sad news about Steve from Green Side Up, a fellow YouTuber. Yeah, very, very sad news. I did hear about that, and it's always tragic when people we watch on these things pass away. It's very humbling. Let's go forth with his memory. That's what I say. Stuart Jackson, evening. Richard and the Veg Army. He's on YouTube tonight. Scott Ambler, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. Hope you are well. Rebecca is saying good evening. Good evening to you. Ballycillian is saying I still can't believe it about the Steve from Green Side Up. Yeah, it is tragic, isn't it? And then Bill and Vales, not had that cold cider yet, Steve. It's on its way, I'm sure. I hope you are all well and had a great weekend. Still got an extra day off tomorrow, which is great because I think I need it. Amanda has just joined in on the Facebook group saying evening. Oh, now anybody who may be watching in the Facebook group, please do just, as Amanda has done, put your name at the end so I can address you personally. Facebook with the groups works with privacy, so it kind of hides your names. So unless you want to stay anonymous, I guess. Anyway. So how are we all doing? Now, I said that what we want to discuss tonight is Kate who's in the audience tonight. Kate has recently shared that she's been having some health problems, so it's making it hard for her to garden. And I thought this is going to be a good topic to share some tips and some ideas about that. But I want to state right at the beginning, I'm able-bodied, so I'm no expert in this particular field. I'm relying completely on everybody out there to share their experiences. And I know that disabilities come in a huge different range of variation. So it's not a case of focusing on any one particular disability. If I get the terminology wrong as well, I apologize for that. This is very, very, for me, very something I want to get right. So hopefully we're going to do okay. The only we've only recently discovered, the only disability that I've had a bit of experience with, well, my wife is dyslexic, which is not a huge problem. We deal with that. But I've recently discovered that I may suffer from ADD myself, which is a disability that we didn't know about. It's just trying to get to doctors and what have you. So that's one form of disability that I kind of don't know much about, but there's other forms as well, and I want to get into that. So what I want from you guys, first of all, I think what I need to know is what makes it difficult for you to garden? What are the problems you have with gardening? I'm sure you will. Well, we know you will enjoy it, but what are the problems, the physical or the mental problems that you have when you are gardening? Let's start off with that, so I can try and understand this a bit better. I'm a bit ignorant, I think is the best way to say it. It's hard to put myself in somebody else's shoes. So, yeah, over to you guys. What are the issues that you face when trying to garden. So Ian Suggett is out there saying, good evening, growers. Hello, Dad. Hope you are well. Stuart Jackson, I have to watch what I do as I broke my back over 20 years ago. Yes, I was lucky. This is why I am a no digger. So give us a bit more details on that, please, Stuart. What is it that you have to limit yourself with because of this broken back from 20 years ago? What does it inhibit you from doing? I think this is going to be how to work forward. Bill and Vale says that's that's the way I'll have one for Greenside Up, Steve. Yeah. Yeah. Let's all have a cider for Greenside Up. That sounds like a good idea. Stuart Jackson, I also work with children with SEND, which is really rewarding. So, yeah, as I said, I want to find out about what the issues are. For me, again, what I've discovered with uncovering that I have ADD is, or suspected ADD, I haven't got the diagnosis, but what I find from this aspect is that I tend to start jobs, get bored easily, lose my concentration, and either move on or plan to come back to it later. And that's also why I can be quite messy. And that's one of the problems that I found with this suspected ADD. Now, Kate is out there. So she says, really appreciate the topic. So with me, I have fibromyalgia, chronic pain that can affect different parts of the body, and also fatigue. And I have 2 collapsed discs in my back. Digging for one is hard. So is it just digging that you have a problem with, Kate? And I really want you to be educated on this. I want to understand, is it digging that is the problem? Is it the bending over that is the problem? And don't get me wrong, I know when I spend some time weeding and I'm bent over on the beds, I come away with a bad back. So I completely understand how painful that must get after a while. And it happens, doesn't it? It can get quite painful. And also, I guess in pains, the motivation, I guess, as well, is a hard thing to beat when you are in pain. So yeah, fill me in with a bit more. As I said, my only experience is what I've uncovered with my ADD, in that I've learned that because I'm messy because of it, and I don't get round to, I focus on one thing too much before moving on to the other, and then nothing gets done, which is why I've found that breaking it down and trying to do a little bit every day actually really works well at keeping my motivation and keeping my focus going. So yeah, that's one of the tactics that I have found. Stuart Jackson says, I have to be reminded to stop. If I stay gardening too long, my back will really hurt. My potting on table is set up just for me. Working at the correct level is so important. Now, actually, Stuart, that is something I'm glad you hit upon, on working at the correct level. I've been working with a lot of potting benches, or looking at potting benches in various places, and some are really low, and I'm trying to use it. Well, I'm looking at it and thinking that's too low for me, and in some I've built my own to be the right height, which works nicely. So yeah, potting levels at the right height is something. Yeah, completely get that. So Amanda says, not a disability, but I am living with long COVID at the moment. Sorry to hear that. I was terribly poorly at the beginning and couldn't garden at all, but now I can manage a couple of light hours with lots of breaks. I still can't dig or do any heavy lifting, and I'm starting to navigate a new way of living, whereby I'm restricted with what I can do physically, and I'm learning to pace myself, says Amanda. So yeah, heavy lifting and digging, and tiredness. So I think, funny enough, Turbo Stream is just coming in with that as well. Since I had long COVID, I find my energy levels are way down from before. I have to pace myself in physical activity now. It's like my internal battery has lost some of its capacity. So I think that's actually very interesting. This is didn't think about this with long COVID and how it slows you down or tires you out. So that's very, very interesting from my perspective on on how that has affected you. And I guess, again, this comes back to, I put a video out this week you may not have seen about how I do little and often by going down the allotment on a daily basis. Does that help? Does that making a regular visit to the allotment if you are low on energy and just doing half hour, does that help? Let me know in the comments. Nicola Cornish Heaven has joined. Evening, Ill, still pottering in the garden. Just had to pop the girlies to bed. It is still so nice out there, isn't it? It's lovely. Love this sun this weekend. It's been fantastic. And Kate says, kneeling can also be hard. I've started using a bulb planter to plant in. Fibrosis is very inconsistent pain condition. So some days I can also have pain in other areas like my shoulders. It moves. Funny enough, tools is something that I wanted to find out a bit more. What tools have you found have worked, and what has helped, and why? Ballycillian says, I gave up digging because of my asthma. That's actually a disability as well, isn't it? I hate the term disability, but yeah, I don't want to use the wrong word. So if I upset anyone, please do tell me, and I will apologise and tell me what words to use. I gave up digging because of my asthma, but no dig beds brought all the gardening fun back. And because hand tools are too small and ordinary tools too big, I use good quality kids tools, which are perfect. Yeah, that's actually a very good point. I've often had discussion about kids' tools. You know, the crap ones I think are a complete and utter waste of money, even for kids. I think kids should have decent tools. And again, I'm trying to think. I've got a tool just here that I'm actually quite using. You see this, my perennial spade. You know, it's small. It's small. It's not what I would call a small hand tool, but it's just a nice size to work in the garden, I've found. And I love this tool, I've got to say. Perennial spade is, if you've got hard soil like I have, it is such a good thing to have. I'm so grateful, though, to be able to do bits and bobs at the plot. It's really cheered me up to be back on the plot. I don't do much outside of work due to the fatigue, but it's meant the world to be back on the plot, says Amanda. Absolutely. It's lovely to hear that. I think you said last week that you found hoeing regularly, even when there's no weeds in sight, has made all the difference. I could be wrong on that, but I'm sure that was you that said that. Kate says, fatigue is awful, so I get worried I can't water as often as I want to. However, exercising is encouraged, so I need to move. If I'm stressed, I tire quickly. So stress makes you tire quickly. That is very interesting as well, isn't it? And makes a lot of sense. And I guess if you're things like watering, if you're worried about watering, so you're trying to rush to get it done, that becomes more stress and therefore it becomes more tiring. In my logical brain, I'm thinking, may be wrong, but let me know if that is part of the thing. Stuart Jackson, my potting bench has taken years to get right. I take pain relief all the time. If it wasn't for the pills, I would not be able to work, let alone gardening. Yeah, this potting bench thing is something I'm looking into at the moment, funny enough, because my one is a little bit too low. But I do want to be able to work a bit better. Scott Ambler, raised beds at standing height would be great for mobility issues, but unfortunately very expensive to set up. Now, that's good that you mentioned that, actually, Scott, because I've actually taken a photo of what we have at the entrance of our allotment. Bill and Val will probably recognise this straight away. So these were recently put in as part of the deal when the builders built in the new road. And as you can see, it is raised beds already built on our allotment site for people with disabilities to rent. Even got disabled parking. It's right by the entrance. Nice, hard standing, easy to get to. The beds actually look really good, I've got to say. Looks like there's plenty of growth going on them. And I really like how our council has really incorporated this into our allotment. So raised beds for me are a definite one that I thought would work nicely in these issues. But again, I'm only guessing because I have no experience. Turbo Stream says the summer of 2021 was very tough. I hadn't realised how ill I was and how I managed the allotment. Even talking on concentration on your task drains your battery down, so you need to pace activities. I come back to little and often for that. I mean, really do. It's changed my outlook because I can just do little and often as regularly as I can. Stuart Jackson says the tools I use are Wolf. I have lots of different handles, which is important. I use the correct tool for you, not anyone else. Funny enough, I know the Wolf, they're the interchangeable handles with all the tools for those that don't know. But I have been, funny enough, saying about handles and spades and things because pick up some spades that for me are too small, and there are others that are just the right size. The size of the tool definitely makes a difference whether you're able bodied or not. Turbo Stream, this year the leaves are a mulch, have really reduced the workload. Only a few weeds to pull out this year. Definitely no dig is a way forward if you cannot manage much physical activity. Well, let's not forget, I mean, I'm a big fan of no dig, but moving a lot of compost can also be quite tiring. A decent wheelbarrow, I'm guessing, is quite important. Lots of help as well, I believe. I like the Wolf Garden tools, being able to have one tool and just change a head so I don't have to carry lots of tools about. Also, my garden garden trolley is a lifesaver on wheels. It tips, which is fab. I'm trying to think, have you posted a photo of that? You might have to remind me what it looks like. Jenny says, I have fibromyalgia, arthritis, and a couple of autoimmune diseases. Some days are better than others. Pain is a constant, and also my cognitive skills are affected. I have walking aids. Please do share how this affects your gardening, because I want to understand. And what you do to help you garden. What techniques do you use? What methods do you use? What tools do you use? Let us know, please. I really want to find this out because this is actually quite fascinating now I've got into it. Amanda, yes, I'm hoeing the beds every visit, and I've brought a strimmer to help me deal with the areas that have become overgrown whilst I wasn't able to visit. It's been a godsend. I've also brought more plugs this year and reduced the varieties I'm growing. It's all helped. Absolutely fantastic. Good to hear that. Scott says, fantastic. Well done on your local council. That should be on all allotments. I agree. I completely agree with that. I think it does help having those on there on allotment sites. Jenny says, disability tools and good quality metal kids tools. My kids help and I have a gardener come to help me. I would love raised beds, but not until we move. I grow in the ground with help and in large pots. Yeah, large pots. I mean, if you can't have raised beds, I guess large pots are going to be the next best thing. And now, Jenny, I mean, you're kind of our inspiration. You're kind of our expert on this particular subject. I see it because I feel what I've seen from you in the past is that you've been gardening this way for a while, so you've got the experience to share with everyone. And I'm asking everyone else for their experience as well. Stuart Jackson, on a positive note, gardening got me through lockdown and it has helped me manage pain and also helps me get my head right. I do think gardening helps me relax. Completely agree with that. Completely agree. Gardening definitely helped me through lockdown. I'm a hard worker. I'm used to working every day, so having nothing, the gardening was a relief for that mentally. Digwell says there are many garden tool suppliers with specials for people with poor grip, etc. For example, trowels with handles and arm supports. No more expensive than usual trowels. I think I've seen those somewhere actually. They've got like a trowel and it's like almost like a T-piece, isn't it? So let's find a trowel to demonstrate this with. Just grab this one. We'll grab this one. So if this was the trowel, it's got a piece that comes up here, so you hold on like that. I think that's the ones I've seen, which I think that's a good idea. That's a nice, easy to use, good idea. It is always a battle. Brain fog is another hurdle to face, but gardening keeps my mental health good and would be a loss without it. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big advocate for mental health, so gardening definitely does help mental health. And it's helped mine. So no complaints there. No, dear, companion planting. Companion planting. That's something I didn't think about. Companion planting helps a lot. And I don't follow a planting plan. I have to go with my limits. Some days I just can't get out the chair. Some days I potter. I have to go with the flow. Actually, now that I find quite interesting what you're saying there, Jenny, that you can't follow a plan. You have to garden as your body tells you what you're capable of, which makes perfect sense now I think about it. But then you get on things like some people say you've got to sow things on certain dates. Gardening by the moon is an example of this. I know a few other techniques. They tell you you've got to sow on certain dates and harvest on these dates. If you can't do it on that day, you can't do it. So that's very, very interesting to me and makes a lot of sense at the same time. Turbo Stream, I have a week back, so I can only manage 20 minutes or so before I have to sit down and rest it. I'm thankful my long COVID is mostly resolved. I am about 80% back, I think. I do think sitting down, having a break, is something I need to do a bit more on the allotment, if I'm honest with you, is a good thing for all of us. A nice little chair, a nice little bench on the allotment goes a long way, I believe. Kate says, I have a different walking stick for the allotment. It's a tripod, so it spreads my weight on the ground and doesn't sink into the soil. So I would with my normal one. I plan to raise all my beds too. Yeah, that's again sinking into the soil. That's saying as well. Again, that's why I like the hard standing, the raised beds that are council pot in around there. Stuart Jackson, when you're in pain all the time, you learn to adjust the way you work. Also, the one thing I couldn't do was ask for help. But now I look at the job. If I need help, I ask. Please ask for help. Totally true. Totally true. I think that's something that we all have to learn is when to ask for help. And I'm guilty of that myself. Digwell says that's the sort of thing. Talking about the trail with like the T handle, I've seen them and I quite like the look of them. You know, give you that bit of extra. I've said that with like my wheelbarrow. Funny enough, you think of a traditional wheelbarrow, and the way you pick up the handles, I think it's very awkward. Just you've got your wrists like that, which I think is very awkward. The handles I have on my wheelbarrow rotate, so you constantly have your hands in a comfortable position, so they move with you. Does that make sense? My when I use my wheelbarrow, they're constantly like that, a bit like driving a car. A wheelbarrow, I feel, is just designed a bit awkwardly. Jenny says, I don't use nets because I don't like them, but also as I fall a lot, it would be a potential hazard for me. I don't go out in the garden without someone knowing I'm out there in case I fall over. Again, I do use nets. I'm not a fan of nets. I find they get annoying and in the way, but the falling over, that's something else. I've fallen over into garden canes before, so that's a potential hazard. Again, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I don't think about. TurboStream, I bought an e-bike to help me with my cycling as I was really enjoying getting out on it. Typical that lifting it, I've injured my left elbow, so that's restricted my allotment activities too. Yeah, I've always been amazed how much, when I've injured a part of my body, how much you don't realise you rely on that joint until you do something that hurts it. So interesting one. Forward planning is hard. I agree, Jenny. I was away and active this weekend. No chance I'll be fit to go down and garden tomorrow. Again, I find this really, really interesting. I've got to say, because it's all the things I don't realise happen. I guess understanding is where we're coming from with this. Now, I have often, and this might be something that you can help me with, particularly. So when I've thought about how I would garden if I had a disability, or even as I get older and I am unable to move as well as I could, I would move on to, when it comes up on the screen. Come on. Hang on. What's going on? It will get there. There's a picture I've uploaded and I've clicked on it. It's not coming up just yet for some weird reason. Why is that coming? That one came earlier. That one works. Oh, there we go. There we go. So these are what my veggie pods. I'm a big fan of the veggie pods because they are higher up. They hold on to water, so they effectively need less watering, and they've got a watering system inbuilt. They've got this mesh cover that holds off the bugs and things as well. I've got 3 of these. That was my large one. That's my medium and my small one as well. So that's, when I've thought about this question before, those are the type of things I would be moving on to. So I'd love to know your thoughts on whether you think they would work, or are they not suitable? Let me know. Jenny says, I have the disability tools. They are great. A hori hori is a great help as the tool does the work for you, but must carry it in the case in case you fall. If you have a knife, no matter what, you carry it in the case anyway, regardless. So I'm a knife collector. I believe in good quality knife tools, but look after them, pot them away, keep them oiled, keep them sharp as well. I have secateurs that build pressure for me. I love those secateurs as well. They're like almost like hydraulic. I can't think what ratchet. They do really work well, don't they? Yeah, ratchet secateurs are a good investment. Jenny says, bless you, take your time and rest up, my lovely. There we go. Scott says, so I've suffered with mental health and have had times where I've just had to leave the allotment, has just not felt up to it. But I set the allotment up knowing that. I have raised beds and paths with weed fabric and wood chips. So if it has been left for a while, the worst I have to deal with is weed in the beds. And it's no dig, so that helps. I think something we can all suffer with is allotment guilt. So I try not to worry about that and just take the little wins. And I think is always, can't see any for it more. I think is always there. So I agree with that. I mean, I'm a big fan of little and often. I find that is the best way to tackle an allotment because it takes the stress out of it. It really does. And I feel so much further along since been doing that. TurboStream, I developed tinnitus last year and have found sitting on the plot has helped me to try and habituate to it. It's a reminder that some disabilities are hidden. And absolutely. That's what I was getting at as well earlier. Or not all disabilities are visual, so share that. One of the best things I have ever got is a veggie pod, as I've just shown. It is the correct size for me, but they are not the correct size for everyone. I agree with that. I know someone who pots theirs on blocks. Yeah, I agree with that. It's like the computer tables. I don't know if anybody has a computer table, but you can now get some that rise and lower to suit on like a motor. I often look at them thinking that's a lot of fun. But it's about adapting for the person. And I think if you're mass producing something like the veggie pod, you cannot tailor it to the individual, but there are ways around it. Idaho says, hello, Richard. Sorry I'm late. Hello to the chat. Welcome along, Idaho. Hope you are well. We are discussing tonight how we make gardening accessible for everyone and sharing everyone's tips with, for want of a better word, disabilities that have made gardening difficult. That's what we're talking about tonight because we're trying to find a bit more about this. Fiskars make a secateur where one of the grips rotate as the handles close together and stop wrist pain during prolonged use. Yeah, which one is it? I think it's... Which one is it? It's one of these up here. I think it's... Hold on, let me just get it for you. Is it this one? No, it's not this one. It might be this one. I'm not sure. Yes, it is. It's this one. As you can see, it's still in. Let's bring this on the overhead camera. Actually, it's still in its case because it's a thing. But this handle here, if you look at it as it moves in, I'm trying to do this. It twists around like so. which I think is a great thing because it is so comfortable to use. I haven't actually used this out in the field. It's because I was given this, I use it as a decoration until um, it goes out into the field for a while. But yeah, they for me, as soon as I saw that, I thought that's a great idea because of how comfortable it is. Jenny says adapting can be hard. I used to work as a gardener and it was hard to learn my new limits and to have help. It's a type of grief process as you learn to let go, but must also embrace a new you. Yeah. Again, you know, you explaining that to me is actually making a lot of sense and helping me understand a lot more. So yeah, I get that very well. Turbo Stream, one point that Kate raised is to realize that we all have limitations and to work with them. I've always said that actually, and I do completely agree with that. You know, we all have limitations, and there's nothing, you know, the garden is still going to be there tomorrow or in a week's time, you know, and worst case, ask somebody for help if you do feel overwhelmed. I'm sure we all have people that are only too happy to help. They may not do what you tell them to do or do it to your standard, but they are there to help. You know, as long as the tea comes. And the important thing is bringing the tea or coffee. Veggiepod actually recommend raising a pod to the correct level for the user. Yeah, I think I've seen that. I mean, you don't have to buy the stand. You do just, if you just buy the veggie pod, you can build your own stand to pot it on should you wish anyway. The one on wheels, the medium one, is actually a bit taller, I've noticed as well. So that might be something to think about. I like the one on wheels because I can just move it out of the way when I need to. Richard Goldens, hello, sorry, Mr. 30 Minutes. Hope you are well, my friend. Lovely to see you. We're talking about sharing tips for those who are less able to garden, so that we can. It's a subject I've struggled to talk about in the past, so I'm trying to leave it open to everyone else. Jenny says, I have a walking frame that I have adapted called Lisa the Stabilizer. I have a flat-handled walking stick that I prop under my arm for bending down. I lean on the stick as my back will not hold out. That's, yeah. Again, you know, this is all the stuff. The walking frame, how, I mean, I'm just going off what Kate was saying earlier with the walking stick. They're sinking into the ground. Does that happen with the walking frame as well? Do you have to pad it out or make it a bit better? Question. Digwell says, haha, a freebie. Yes, they were a freebie, but I always see it that I have to earn it, in my honest. So I have to show them up. I have to make them look. So Kate says, those secateurs look good. They are really good. They're from Fiskars, which are a really good company, I have to say. And I think the detail I've got on them is P961. But if I find the details out afterwards, I will send them over to you to try and help. Nicholas says, please, can you all come and help? I'm overwhelmed daily. Yeah, I know exactly how you feel. I think I have found, and I think a lot of people have come along with this tonight. That little and often really does help with the overwhelm. And I just start in the same area each time and work forward. That first area gets easier and easier the further we go on. So that is my answer. That is my answer to it for overwhelm. Idaho says, I'm sure the gardening crowd has already mentioned how raised beds make a huge difference. I started doing raised beds because soil was bad, but now really like the raised soil level, less bending. Yes. I mean, I used raised beds, but I wouldn't exactly call them high raised beds here at home. Not so much for the bedding, but because my soil is just hard clay and just building it up is working wonders. So yeah, we have mentioned raised beds, but we still want to keep that going. You know, every little helps. I'm 4'10". I certainly don't need them raised much, says Kate. It's all about making it for you. All about making it for you. £30 a pair. I think he's talking about these. I will find an Amazon link for you, Kate, and share them. I'll put it in the Facebook group as well. I mean, I'm a big fan of Fiskars. I use Fiskars secateurs all the time. Mine are years old and they're still going good. Keep them clean, keep them sharp, and they will last a lifetime. I think these actually have a lifetime guarantee as well. Ian has joined, saying hi all from Ian. Hello, my friend. Hope you are well. 20-year guarantee on Fiskars. They used to have a lifetime, didn't they? I'm a big fan of Fiskars, though. We don't have a disability. We just have different abilities. That's absolutely right. Yeah. As I said, I do struggle with trying to find the right words because I don't want to upset anyone or anything like that. But I'm trying my hardest here. Oracle says, how do you run the school allotment on your own, Stuart? Have you ever thought of a new job? Me and Millard just battle on and don't complain as we enjoy it. So, Stuart, how do you run the school allotment and your own, Stuart? Coping with both, especially with your back. Jenny says, no dig paths of bark or sunken grip slabs, things that grass can grow through, stop grass getting too soggy. I dream of raised beds I can sit on when we move one day. Yeah. Well, I come back to that picture that I showed earlier on that, this one, it's been purposely built for wheelchair access, I think it was said on the memos. And I can see why. I can see exactly the hard standing makes it nice flat surface all the way round, raised bedding. I can see why that was considered to be accessible, and hopefully it is accessible, provided you get the right tools and the right people, I guess. And I think we said earlier, all allotments should be having this. We were very lucky because the road was going in. The developer, as part of the agreement, had to put in this extra area, including new allotments, which we lost a bit of car parking area, admittedly, but nobody really used that area for parking anyways. Bill and Val, I'm sure, will attest to. But to now get that there was a great thing, and I believe it should be on every single allotment site, in my opinion. Now, let's have a look at your photos quickly, just to have a bit of a break, because a few photos have come in this week. So what have we got first of all? And now last week we were asking about rhubarb and spinach recipes. Bit of an update about spinach at the moment. And she shared a rhubarb mousse recipe in the Facebook group. Looks absolutely delicious, I've got to say, and a great way to use up rhubarb. Next, Steve, he's Digbrow, aka, on his YouTube channel. He's been trialing out different forms of compost. And these are what we are. These are the different varieties. As you can see, number 5 looks pretty poor. But he's also done the same in his veggie pod with Rocket Grow and Miracle Grow. And to me, Miracle Grow looks like it's the best one. So interesting results. I've got some updates about the potatoes coming up at some point as well. Ian has been in Spain, I believe, or was it Portugal? One of the two. And he found this at a market, and ask him what it is. Jeannie, sorry, I've misspelt your name. Sorry, that should be Jenny. She's harvested some radishes. I've harvested plenty of radishes this week as well. Got some really nice one. This looks to be either French breakfast or something like that. Really coming down well with radishes at the moment, it has to be said. Now, Scott couldn't wait any longer for his spuds, which look like they are growing really, really nicely here. And here you go, he harvested some of them. Some nice looking potatoes, it has to be said. So good on you there. Now, keep posting those photos. You can post them in our Facebook group. You can send to me via social media or email me, richard@thevegetable.co.uk. So yeah, lots of great stuff going on there. I mentioned last week we were talking about spinach recipes. I've noticed my spinach is starting to bolt. So it's a good job we discussed that last week. It would be no good this week. We've had a massive, massive harvest of spinach this week. I've also accidentally harvested some potatoes this week too, by accident. Well, I was weeding the allotment, so I picked a couple up and then I harvested my greenhouse potatoes. They were rubbish though, I'll be honest with you. Um, there was something else I had an update. Oh, the potato trials in the different compost. I've got a video coming out, which is a tour of the plot. You can see the difference in that. I'm not going to share anything just yet. Scott says, I enjoy when Sue Kent is on Gardener's World. He basically gardens with her feet. It's always interesting to see what she does to make gardening accessible for her, from planting to tools. She did a garden at Chelsea one year and was designed for that. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it is fascinating to see this. I remember, I can't remember if it was Gardener's World. There was a TV, it was a clip, it probably was on Gardener's World, of somebody who was blind, who had an allotment as well. And what he would do, how he found, I mean, this was amazing, is as he walked, he would kick the side of the bed, or use his foot against the side of a bed, and he knew how many steps to take to get to the bed that he wanted, or the area that he wanted. Absolutely fascinating. And you know, we've spoken a bit about disabilities tonight, blindness. How do you garden when you're blind? You know, find it fascinating. Turbo Stream, did you get my plot tour video, Richard? I didn't. I will have to check again, but I'll save it for next week because it's a first of June Thursday, so we'll save it for next week anyway. If you don't mind, that is. Rebecca says, "Do you have to go into the holidays to water, Stuart?" Yeah, let's find out. I also find Sue garden interesting. Ian Beddoes, evening from a very wet Malaga. I'm not going to say much as Mike behind the bar poured me a 50-50 Jack Daniels and Coke this afternoon. Lucky you. Hope you are having a great time out there. Thomas Stream, I accidentally bought some rice pudding this week. I can confirm it goes nicely with stewed rhubarb. Absolutely. This absolutely. Great visual of a compost trial. Digwat says, this is why garden shows are a con. At Malvern, Fiskars said those secateurs were on offer £5 off at 30, yet they sell them for £29 normally. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm going Gardener's World in three weeks' time. Let me know if you are going on a Thursday or Friday. And we're trying to arrange a meetup. But yeah, I'm going, and I'm always looking at the prices and saying, can I get that same thing cheaper anywhere else? Because you often do find that it's not as cheap as they make it out to be. Stuart replied to Rebecca, most weeks one of us will go in, so whoever goes into school, they will water. There you go. There we go. Nicholas says, I'm lucky. If I've overdone it in the morning with my ankles, I can rest up for a couple of hours indoors and put my feet up to help reduce the swelling. Handy having my veg garden is on my own land. But you do have quite a few acres there, to be fair, so a lot of work. Jenny says, Mark Lane is also very inspiring. He did an interview showing how he manages from his wheelchair. Yeah, again, he's another one. He's on Gardener's World as well, isn't he, or something like that? Another one who, absolutely, very interesting. And it's I do believe we need to see more of these stories to find out how people garden. Not everybody's the same. Not everybody is the same. Sue Jackson, I don't call myself disabled, but other people think they know best, like saying, you shouldn't do that, you'll hurt yourself. Life is for living, not sitting down watching others. Absolutely. Absolutely. Idaho says, sounds like the best thing about the garden events is meeting up with other gardeners. Yes, it is meeting up with other gardeners. You do also get talks from very well-known garden people, be it Adam Frost or whoever may be at your local one. Um, you also get to talk to growers. I think this is the thing. You get to talk to specialist growers and producers, such as tool makers and stuff. So there's more to a show than it just being a market. I see it more as a chance for reconnaissance, for want of a better word. Oracle says, understands Stuart, a broken back is bad. You keep going. When you hold it, you'll be in some pain. Yeah. Going on Thursday, Richard. Lowe's booked in with the BBC. No interest in Gardener's World after last year. LOL. So I know a few others are going on the Thursday as well. I'm thinking we'll do like a meetup in the evening or in the afternoon, sorry, and record a bit of a podcast with everyone talking about their day. If anybody's going to Gardener's World on the Thursday, trying to think, have I got a discount? I think I might have a discount code if anybody hasn't got tickets and wants tickets. Email me and I'll share the discount code. I'm sure I've got it. Turbo Stream says, I thought that dig well. Stalls and stalls of overpriced stuff. I didn't want to buy at Malva. Not sure I will go again. Just not my thing, I realised. I mean, you were with me quite a bit, Adrian. So what I find with it, as I said, I mean, I was there for 2 days. I see it, and I'm there for 2 days again this year. But I see it, I'm working. So I've got to go and chat to people. So I do find it good for reconnaissance and chatting. Well, you could do that anywhere, I guess, but chatting. Another story about that, actually. Another story, because I'm very poor at reaching out and talking to people, symptom of ADD, funny enough. But I was looking at my very early white garlic and working out when it's ready to harvest. Now, I got it from Garlic Farm, and they say you can harvest around the end of May. So I was looking at it and thinking, the lower leaves aren't quite there. So I emailed the Garlic Farm, and I had a conversation with them, and they were really good and said, no, give it another week or two, and I think you'll be there. So as much as I say I see these shows as reconnaissance, you can actually reach out to these people and have a chat as well. Chili Kate, hello everyone. We've been listening from the allotment whilst working. Too hot earlier. Yeah, with you on that. With you on that. It is a case that it's, I don't know where this heat suddenly came from. Very, very hot all of a sudden. My partner is a teacher and has brought some plants back from school to keep alive during half term. Good guy. Good. Good luck. Good luck is all I say. Nicholas says, I'm hoping to go Friday and Sunday. Friday evening. Sunday is actually the day to go for the discounts, because come the last sort of hour, there's a bell that goes off, and you'll find that they just suddenly start saying, right, everything is like half price, just so they don't have to take it back home with them, especially in the floral marquee. Yeah, trust me, you get some real bargains, and it's funny what people do at that point. Nicholas says, Chili K, I was out at 6 a.m. and often don't finish till 8 p.m., but go in shade where I can. 6 a.m. is such a great time in the morning. Evening all, says Andrew Norris. Sorry to be late. Just got back from the country. Spent the week planting out our veg garden. Pictures to follow some other day. Andrew, is it a group that you've started? Please do share with us those details, because that's absolutely, I've been joined and enjoying it. Digwell, I have a feeling that the BBC Gardener's World Food Show is very unsubscribed this year, as there are tickets offer mails coming in daily. No, I think they always do that. I'll be honest, they always do that. I know a lot of people are unhappy about the price of parking, though. I will say that. But yeah. Turbo Stream, I'm not sure I will be going to Gardener's World. It was nice to spend a day with you, of course, Richard. I fully accept you need to go for the networking on the podcast. Yeah. And Digwell says, I'm only going for the food. That's a good thing about the show. You do get to sample lots of food. Funny story. I mean, I shouldn't say this. Last year I was at Gardener's World. I went on the Thursday. I'm on a press pass, so on the Friday I got in a little bit early, and I was able to take photos of the show gardens with no one around, which was great. And one of my friends was in there. Were chatting to a guy who created the garden from inspired by the Archers, and he had cider. We were having this glass of cider at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's such a surreal experience, but such good fun at the same time. Oracle says, with working in school, would they have a duty of care making your job easier? Are you getting bigger raised beds, etc., to stop the bending? Good question. Good question. That's a very good question, actually, Oracle. It's for Stuart, obviously, but a very good question. Chili Cat, I was down bright and early yesterday, but really needed a lie-in this morning. Tomorrow is looking cooler on the south coast. I hope so. Really hope so. I mean, this weekend has been pretty productive, but could be better. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Turbo Stream. Digwell, I noticed last year there was a bike show on. More tempted by that. Gardener's World is an expensive day out if you need to drive and have to pay for the full ticket. And Digwell says 8 o'clock, late start for the cider. It was a late start, indeed, I agree, but it was such a surreal experience. There I am in this garden, inspired by the Archers, drinking cider at 8 o'clock in the morning. But that's one of the good things that again, the good food show at Gardener's World. I know we've moved topics slightly, but there was so much good food to try and sample there. You don't really need to take food, I felt. Digwell says temperatures plummeted in the last hour. Well, I've got 22 degrees C here, it says. An update on the box of reduced rhubarb, asparagus, courgettes, yellow, green. Rhubarb up, 1 of the asparagus shot up. Yellow courgette, 3 out of 6. Haven't planted the green one out yet. Plenty going on. Plenty going on. Andrew says, what did you want me to forward details of? The wildflower garden or the dew pond? No, I couldn't remember what your thing on Facebook is called off the top of my head, but I can't remember if it's a group or a page. But either way, let us know what it is, and it might be of some interest to people watching tonight as well. Turbo Stream, I'm used to the motorhome shows with free parking and £7 ticket price. Yeah, I believe it's the NEC that charges the parking, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, we're getting away from the subject a bit. Now, I'm going to quickly show a grow along that I've got for you guys. And it's all about thinking ahead this week. Watch my hair on this one because I did a stupid moo-moo on this. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another grow along. Now, it's such a lovely day outside today. I thought I'll come outside and, in complete contradiction to the weather, we're sowing some winter vegetables. And what we're actually sowing is a winter cabbage. Now, as always, with these grow-alongs, the idea is for you guys to share your own tips and tricks down in the comments to let us know how you go about growing these particular vegetables as well. So let's get on with it, shall we? So what I'm doing slightly differently this time is, instead of sowing them in pots to be pricked out, I'm actually sowing them in these trays to give me little plug plants. I've already made the label to know what is going in, and what we're going to do is, if I can open the packet, that is, these are the seeds that we're going to sow today. They're very tiny, but we're just going to add a couple to each little plug plant and then cover them over. I don't normally do this, in all honesty, because all these seeds, once you pour them out into your hand, there's a good chance they're going to get a bit damp, and therefore that means that the seeds, if you don't use them all, can well end up being spoiled. But I think we'll get away with it this time. So I'm doing 2 or 3 seeds per plug plant. And what we're going to do is let them grow on. We'll keep these moist. They're not going to go inside the greenhouse at this time of year. It's just going to be too hot for them inside the greenhouse. So we're going to probably keep them out here. It might still be a bit too hot here, but we'll see how we get on. You know, we can sow winter vegetable any time but sort of end of May throughout June. So we're going to leave these to grow on, and we'll pick out the thinnest ones per plug plant as they grow, and leaving the strongest plants to grow on, and that hopefully will give us some good amount of cabbages. Now I'm selecting these plug plants systems just because I want to grow plug plants. I find them a little bit easier and quicker when we are so busy with 1,000,001 other things. It does mean we lose a bit of compost, but it's not the end of the world. We can live with that for the sake of saving a bit of time. And as I said, a few seeds in each single one. Leave it like that, and that is our seeds sown. Now once the roots on these plug plants are a bit too big for the pot, we'll pot them up into something a bit bigger, and then we'll keep potting them up into bigger and bigger as they grow. Eventually they will be going down to the allotment, and where we're going to be planting these is actually where our potatoes are. Our first early and second early potatoes are going to start being used up soon, so as those beds empty, we can then plant in our winter vegetables such as these cabbages or cauliflowers and so on. And then we just leave them to grow, keep them well watered, of course, weed free as always, and a good feed of grow more or chicken manure pellets, as well as good compost and a good mulch. Of course, I do love a good mulch. These will hopefully grow into heads. These should be in theory ready just in time for Christmas, so that's what I'm aiming to get with these, and we will be sowing more in June as well to give us more vegetables for the winter. So there we go, that is our winter cabbages sown. Let us know in the comments if you're sowing any winter vegetables and how you go about growing them, and any tips or anything like that. I'd love to find out more. Bye guys, see you on the next one. There we go, our winter cabbages are sown, and as always, please do share your cabbage growing tips. Especially if it's related to what we're talking about, making gardening accessible for everyone. Digwell says, what is that compost? Doesn't look suitable for seeds. You're right, it's multi-purpose compost, and normally I would use a seed sowing compost, but I just fancied a bit of a change, to be honest. I told you it was hot, I wasn't thinking straight, so I used multi-purpose, and it was a Levington, which not brilliant, I've got to admit, not brilliant quality, but as we know, compost is a bit hit and miss this year. I'm still debating about whether coir was good or not. I'm sure we're all going through that. I do not have great upper body strength, so I use smaller tools. I found a long-handled shovel, spade, so good leverage, but has much smaller shovel blade. Less steel means lighter weight. I was in a garden centre the other day, and I saw, you've probably seen them yourselves, but they actually do lightweight tools as well, which I'm always worried about because I feel lightweight might mean they're not as strong. But I guess lightweight, means they will come along. Oracle says, with your conditions, Stuart, I would be looking 9x2 boards and build them 3 high, take you up to 27 inches. Means you can work away and make life easier. That would be health and safety issues, so money shouldn't matter. Stuart says, health and safety at school is my nemesis. You have to work around the children. Us adults are not important. Very true. Very true. Very true. Kind of makes sense when you think the kids. Well, there's the option, Stuart. Get the kids to do the work for you. Problem solved. Sorted it. Turbo Steve says, I sowed a few January King cabbage this week on the prompt from the Thursday podcast. Yes. Time to start thinking about the winter cabbages, I think, or winter vegetables. I think it's so easy to forget about those. Here we are barely thinking about summer vegetables, and here we are talking about winter vegetables, but we've got to grow them. It's all about thinking ahead. Hard to believe that, in 3 weeks' time, it's going to be the longest day, the middle of the year. Where has the time just gone this year? It feels like it has flown by. Now, at this point, I do just want to ask you, please do give us a thumbs up. Please do give us a like. Please do give us a follow. Please do give us a subscribe. And don't forget to click the notifications so that you know when we go live. Always good to hear more and find more about that. I don't know what I'm saying there. Timer stream. I have the border fork at home. They are smaller than a regular digging fork, plus a long-handled shovel makes the collection of leaves from the bottom gate much easier. Yeah. See, I find this an interesting thing to mention. Spade and shovels. The difference between a spade and a shovel. You know, a spade is for digging, a shovel is for shoveling. Is how I describe it. But good thinking, good sharing. Chili Phil says, didn't want to miss this week, so listening for my allotment. I have hypermobility as well as a herniated disc in my back. I find I have to pace myself when it hurts, which I'm not always good at. So my attitude, and I know it's easy to not pace yourself, but my attitude to that is that always remember the garden is always going to be there tomorrow or the day after or later in the day. You've just got to pace yourself to make it suitable for next week. Nicholas says, topic for next week, please. So I'm thinking for next week, slightly off topic or slightly different, but I want to find out feed you have your plant feeding routines or what have you. It's that time of year when we're starting to use a lot of feed, and whether you use liquid or solid feeds, etc., etc. You know, I'm thinking that's what I'm going down. I need to contact somebody for a Q&A session at some point, actually. Digwell, although I sow and grow winter veg, I have no issue with buying plants from the likes of DT Brown if needed. I agree with that. I completely agree with that. You know, I've always said that I try and grow as much as I can from seed because it's cheaper. But I have no problem if I have particular seeds. I'm having trouble with peas this year. Probably a great example there, peas. So I have no trouble with going to a garden centre and buying some peas in to make up for it because I just cannot get them to germinate for some reason. I've tried in different methods, different compost, different areas. They're just not germinating very well at all. Added to that, I forgot what I was going to say there. I had something right on my brain and it's completely gone. I'll come back. I'll think about it for a little bit longer and see what happens. Turbo Stream says next week, show us your plots. Yeah, we'll do a show us your plot as well, and what plant feed you're using and how often. Yes, I also buy plants, especially when I have a seedling disaster or run out of time. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to buying in plants, I mean, I remembered what I was going to say now. I've noticed though this year, have you seen how expensive plants seem to have got? You used to be able to buy like a single tomato plant for £1, and now they're about £4. Or is it just down here? Just down here where I seem to be having this trouble. But I'm amazed just how expensive tomatoes or courgettes or any plants seem to have gotten this year. I know everything's getting expensive. Compost is astronomically expensive. In fact, that's given me an idea. I want of compost. You know, another subject we could talk about at some point is: do you use your homemade compost in your pots and things? Feed is a good topic. One thing I found out after I've planted out, me too. But I've got a routine and I'm just trying to find a few more people's ideas out on it as well. Feed It Friday, of course, as Rebecca inspired me, and I've been kidnapping that phrase. I hope you don't mind, but it's such a good phrase. Kate Spratt says, sowing a few extra plants and then go into a plant swap is good too. See, my mistake I always make is I sow too many seeds and then I have the hassle of pricking them out. And this year particularly, I said I wasn't going to use any heated propagators on my grow lights. I was just doing it on the kitchen windowsill. That was a big mistake. our plants did go leggy on the kitchen windowsill because it just not good enough. Our house faces the wrong direction, so I am going to have to go back to heated options next year. Scott says, I also buy plants, but only because I have the problem of going to the garden centre for one thing and leave with lots. Yeah. I mean, I used to have a chain of garden centres that we used to look after for work. I don't have that anymore, so I don't go in garden centres as often. But when I do, I would find lots out. I would drive down there with my surplus plants if tomatoes are £4 each, £1 each year. Yeah, honestly, they are £4 a tomato plant, and they're not even that big. I mean, I've got extra tomato plants that I'm going to give my mum to sell at a car boot for £1 a plant, and I think they're just going to go because they're just too expensive. Our charity wouldn't make any money if people only sowed seeds. Please keep buying plants. I've got no problem with that. Rebecca says she doesn't mind as long as we remember the Feed It Friday. Absolutely. Idaho, yes, inflation here also. Organically grown seedlings, $6. Other conventional grown are $3.50 to $4. Grow Veg UK says it's everywhere, Richard. The glass houses have huge bills for heating those plants in the colder months. I'm in Lincolnshire, and a single tomato plant is from $2.99 to $4.99 this year. Yeah, it's scary just how expensive it is. I understand the reasons. I really do. And I completely get it. It's just scary how expensive it's got. Andrew says, has anyone used feed from stinging nettles? Yes, I have. Very good on young plants, I've got to say. I said a story on the podcast the other day. I made it as a child. It was the smelliest thing I ever did, but it makes a fantastic feed, and it's free. So just great for root establishing or growing on young plants. Idaho, organic grown usually include unusual, intriguing varieties. Conventional seedlings are pretty mundane, but obviously they grow. Absolutely, yeah. It's whatever works. I mean, as much as I try and be as organic as possible, I would not class myself as an organic gardener because I don't have the certifications or all the necessary things you need to know to class yourself as organic. Toby Stream says, I would buy plants, but some of our stores forgot to walk to them, so they are mostly dead before you go buy them. I know exactly what you're talking about there. Must cost them a fortune in lost sales. So I know of, I wouldn't call them a garden centre, but they have garden section in their stores, and they do that. They forget to water them. They look pretty rubbish. But, you know, my front garden that I've planted loads of plants, fruit bushes, they cost me 10p because of that very reason. I'm loving it. I am horrified by the price of tomato seedlings in the UK. We just paid 35 pence. Given the price in the UK, why wouldn't you start your own unless you were supporting a charity, of course? I would say some people it's a time factor. That's why they're not growing their own from seed. The time factor, the may not have the space as well is sometimes a reason. And I can think of I can understand why people want to buy plants in, but I do think it is expensive, very expensive. Nettle feed for nitrogen and comfrey for fruiting and roots. Completely, yeah. I've spoken about this on the podcast on Monday if you are interested. Jenny says, I use nettles to make a field feed and as a mulch. I'm using nettles in a potato tower as an experiment as I was running low on compost. Nettles are great for feeding and companion planting. Yeah, I completely agree with all that. I didn't think of using nettles as a mulch, but it makes sense. But yeah, good ideas there indeed. Oh, Andrew likes the idea as well. Digwell says, always make a feed or tea from the weed that is most prolific in your area. It's the one that is pulling up the nutrients from down below. Yep, I agree with that. That's what makes comfrey so good. A dynamic accumulator is the word that I believe they're called, where they mine those nutrients and bring them up into the leaves and then use them on our plants in making feeds and stuff. Great stuff. Nicholas says Aldi and Lidl don't often reduce wilting plants as they get a full refund from the supplier. Very wrong. I felt to squeeze the supplier when it's the store's lack of care. I agree. It's again that what annoys me about these shops that I've been in that sell that have a garden section, but the staff do not look after them at all. I mean, it's good because I end up with these discount. I mean, you know, my entire front garden has cost me a few quid basically because I was just buying these plants at the end of the season for 10p, and they've done well. They're great, but it doesn't mean that it's perfect. It doesn't mean it's a complete option for everyone. Digwell says comfrey does not grow near me. Can you get comfrey to grow though? Because I think comfrey is such a great plant to have on the allotment. Don't know. Can you not get it to grow at all? I've got it growing everywhere on my allotment. Great idea. Nothing makes me happier than to stew that creeping thistle. Yeah, using those weeds. Using those weeds to do our own thing is a great idea. I tried it with our couch grass once, but the couch grass feed just didn't work very well, if I'm honest, at all well. But hey, we'll try it again. I've done the photos. Yes, I've done the videos. So as I said, next week I do want to see, it is the first of the month on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. So I do want to see how your plots and your gardens are looking. There will be a video coming out for myself with a plot tour from here at home this week. So you can see that, and then I will be doing a plot tour of the allotment next weekend to go out the following week. So I'll probably show you the guys that as well from my perspective, just to give you a bit of an idea. But yeah, I'd love to see your plots as well as what your plant fooded routines. Nicholas says, I can't use deep-rooted plants to make a feed due to arsenic in the soil. Yeah, I keep forgetting about your arsenic in the soil. I don't know why, because it's quite an astounding thing. Comfrey is out for you. Comfrey is out for you for that very reason. Digwell says, if I force comfrey to grow, then it will not be the natural local weed that we advise to make a feed out of. Good point. Where does comfrey? It's a bit of a hypothetical question. Where is comfrey found naturally? I have it on my allotment, and it grows all over the place, but I don't think that's. I've never seen it out in the wild, and I don't see it anywhere else. So, I wonder. Turbo string. My strimmer came with an attachment that edges the grass. I just turn the handle through 90 degrees. Much easier to trim the grass paths than a push mower. See, I do use the push mower, but I like to use those grass clippings for the mulch on my beds. Really, again, it's all about making my life easy. Again, this tallies in with what we were saying about making gardening accessible. I'm a big fan of mulches. In fact, I'm mulch is a saying that I will always use. And grass clippings are just one of the things I use for a mulch. Wind's picking up out there, so that's the only reason that I'll cut the grass on the allotment and keep the grass for that. Digwell says Doc Wills lead here with nettles in second place. See, to me, they are found that Doc and nettles are found out in the wild. Why do we get comfrey growing everywhere on my allotment, but I don't see it in anywhere else? Just thinking out here. Chili Kate says, we have lots of wild comfrey here, which means I've not rushed to grow it. Is that on your allotment, or is that out in your local area in general? The woods and stuff. I'm just wondering, because I cannot think of anywhere I've seen comfrey growing outside of an allotment. Maybe some vegetable gardens, but I cannot think of anywhere else I've seen it growing. It's amazing that what your mind thinks when you're going through this. Um, excuse me. Um, but yeah, comfrey, where does it grow? Where is it naturally found from? Chili Phil says it's in the fields opposite our house. There we go. And Andrew says we have quite a lot of comfrey on the floodplain here in Zagreb. Tomorrow I shall raid the store. Do it. Do it, do it, do it. Comfrey is a fan. I mean, I love comfrey if you can do it. Comfrey isn't native in my yard, but neither is creeping thistle. I think there's a lot of weeds that aren't native. We just have to do it, to make the most of it. Turbo Street, mind you, since I did my elbow, it is very sore after a strimming session. No cars allowed on the site, so carting a mower down isn't an option. Understandable. I don't think you're allowed sheds either. Idaho says both grow great here. Stuart Jackson says next term, excuse me, I will be teaching the children how to make food feed, comfrey, banana skins, stinging nettles, any others, please. Weeds? Any weeds? Just any weeds. Oh, compost, horse manure as well. I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are loads of options out there. You only have to trawl through some of the Facebook groups to pretty quickly come up or see some people sharing their little ideas. I did talk about this a bit more on Monday, on the podcast on Monday, and gave a few of ones that I do: compost manure, compost manure, compost tea, manure tea, stinging nettle tea, comfrey tea. I can't remember what the others I said were. I think that was it. But mainly focusing on the comfrey tea because it's such a readily available one and easy to get hold of. I find myself playing with these Fiskars because of the rotating handle we're talking about. It's like having a workout for your hand at the same time. I should put that down and not do that. Digrat says comfrey can be found growing in the wild in the UK, often on riverbanks and other similar habitats. I've just never really, perhaps I've not noticed it when I'm out and about. Or perhaps on the south coast it might be a bit too hot for it to grow on. I don't know. I've just never seen it. Jenny says dock is amazing. Weeds with tap roots are most beneficial. Yeah, one of my favourite weeds is horseradish as well, for obvious reasons. Weeds in a school garden, I'm not sure we will find any as the children pull anything up. Ballyceline says, don't forget compost tea, Stuart. So, yeah, compost tea, weed tea. We'll get the kids to go weed in their own gardens and bring those weeds in the next day to make the tea. That's an idea for you. Chili Phil says, that makes sense. Ours is right by the river in the fields. Yeah, I mean, I can honestly say I used to live by the River Arun. I used to take regular walks. I've never seen it growing wild along there. But I don't know. I've never seen it growing in the wild is my answer to that. So, yeah. Jenny says, don't pull too many weeds. So beneficial. Blackfly, love nettles and docks, etc. Yeah, I mean, I always only do the weeds or the weeds on my allotment. Again, my answer to you for that, what I have on my allotment is what I will use. Weeds, I'm always picking weeds, as you know. I think that's something we all do, picking weeds and what have you. Comfrey has been introduced here, says Idaho Garden Gal. Some people say it's a weed. In my area, I have to really coddle it at first. Then once it's going, it grows fine as long as I water it. I think comfrey is such a great plant. It's well worth if you can get hold of it. I would recommend Bocking 14 because then it doesn't self-seed everywhere. But comfrey is such a great plant. Stuart Jackson says, I'm sure the parents would love it if I set the homework weed pulling. Ha ha ha. Absolutely. That's what I was thinking. Set them homework to go weed pulling to make their own weed feeds the following day. The parents will be happy. My parents might go out in the garden with them to help them and monitor what they're doing. And you get a free source of weeds. I mean, that's the first time I've ever thought I'd ever say you can get a free source of weeds, but gotta work with what you've got, isn't it? Isn't it a case of that? I love the comfrey flowers, says Idaho. Yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, comfrey is such a great plant. I picked some of it the other day to make my own weed feed on the allotment. Stinks to high heaven. My comfrey feed, sorry, stinks to high heaven. But I know it's going to do the world of good. The comfrey flowers, the bees will just love them as well. Again, it's just such a great thing to grow for so many reasons. I know they're not meant to be edible, they're meant to be poisonous, but they used to be considered edible, and they're very good medicinally as well. Meant to heal broken bones pretty quickly. Nicholas says, I'm hoping to make all my own compost next year with grass clippings from meadows and cardboard from supermarket. Good luck. Good luck. I'm always hoping to make my own compost. I've calculated that I need about 1,000 litres of compost to cope with all the potting on and plants in pots that I deal with. And it gets very expensive, 1,000 litres. I could bulk buy, but then I struggle to find somewhere to keep it. But I want to make my own as much as I can. And that doesn't include the compost that I use for mulching my plants and things like that as well. So, what have you? Nicholas says, now I have a 4 new bay compost area. Yeah, you are lucky enough to have that. If you watch Beach Grove from this week, they made comfrey tea without the smell. Great watch. Don't have a TV, so I can't watch it. Excuse me. Digwell says comfrey is poisonous if eaten, but so are many other plants in the garden. Foxgloves for one, rhubarb is another. As we know, there's so many out there. Digwell says my compost trial cost me £120. Exactly right. I know. Compost has just got so expensive this year. As I said, I need about 1,000 litres, which actually, if I was to buy it in bulk, about a half ton or whatever it's called, that would be about £200 nearly just for that. It's too expensive. Gets too expensive. Nicholas says maybe on YouTube for the Beach Grove. I've not seen it on there, possibly. Just I don't have a TV, as you know, so I don't watch any of the TV programs anymore that people talk about. I mean, I was watching Gardener's World for a while on YouTube, but that fell out of favour again. Got bored. I struggle. But yeah, compost is so expensive, but quite understandably, as we've just said, with the rising cost of everything. But I'm trying to make as much of my own. If I can make 1,000 litres, if I can, let's say 1,500 litres, 2,000 litres, I'm adding more and more to it to see my needs. It's going to take a lot to try and build it up. So, yeah. Jenny says chop up comfrey and pop in a bucket with a heavy stone. That's it. Leave, and a strong black concentrate will gather at the bottom. Yes. That is the way I have heard, or like having a huge drain pipe going up the side of your shed that you pop the comfrey at the top and then weight it down with a stone or something and let the liquid drip out the bottom is the other idea I have heard of. It's all a bit overkill in some ways, though, isn't it? All a bit overkill. Idaho says comfrey tea without the smell. Yeah, comfrey tea is horrible smell. This is comfrey tea for for plant food. Sorry, not for drinking. not for drinking, and it smells when you make it. It stinks. A good fitted lid, you won't smell it until you take the lid off. Stu Jackson, I got 2 bags of compost in Tesco's for £9. They went to my local garden centre, then had to pay £9 per bag. So yes, I'll be back to the supermarket soon. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, you can get deals going on in supermarkets and what oh, hiccups as well in supermarkets and what have you. So they are, but it's still pretty expensive. Nicholas says, I bought 125 bags of compost for at 60 litres a bag for £1 last year, but this year bought mushroom compost, 6 cubic ton, £400 I think I paid, doubled from 2 years ago in price. Yeah, and Grow Veg is saying 4 meters squared cubed of homemade compost last year, and I'm on target for the same this season. How do you do it? I know we're getting to the end of the show. How are you able to make so much compost? This might be a topic we have to discuss in the future as well. Coming up with some good ideas this tonight. Idaho, I know it smells bad, but how do I make it without the odor? Oh, basically by not letting it sit in water, just letting it break down without being in water and let it just sort of leach out this liquid. Basically. Digworth says mushroom compost is too alkali for my allotment. For me, it's too well, I've got a mushroom allergy, so it's too risky. That being said, I'm thinking, as you know, I'm growing, I've done a straw bale garden this year, and that straw bale is meant to break down into compost as we go on throughout the year. So I'm hoping that's going to fill a bed up, and that might be the way to make lots of compost in following years by using straw bale gardening to start it off. That's an idea. My head's working anyway. I don't know if anybody else has tried straw bale. Well, I know some of you have tried straw bale gardening, but I'm quite liking it. I've got to say, the results aren't great just yet, but I'm liking it. Right, Idaho gets it now, so that's good stuff. Right, I am going to start packing up. I know I was asking Grow Veg how he managed to make so much compost. I'm hoping that's going to come through before we finish off, so keep typing and I'd love to see it. But I think that's going to be a subject we'll cover in a few weeks' time, how to make as much compost as possible, and share your tips on that. Here we go. I have an allotment garden. I have OCD, so everything I do becomes an obsession. I built 4 huge compost bay, thinks Charles Dowding size. Here we go. So he basically did large compost bins, and that's how he did it. Digwa says, did you have to pee on the straw? No, I added lots of flesh, bone meal, grow more, and water to get it ready. I did make a video on it, so that explains everything. Right, guys, it's been an interesting chat. Thanks so much to everybody that joined in and shared their tips for everyone. Hopefully, haven't offended anybody or said the wrong thing. I hope it's been a pretty good chat. And Kate, particularly, I hope it's been helpful for you. And I do want to have this conversation going on quite regularly, you know, try and get more people sharing their tips and tricks on how to garden when you have disabilities. So always, please do feel free to share those moving forward. So next week, show us your plots as well as what else is going on, as well as your feeding routines. So you take care, guys, and I will see you again next time.